and we're off. Jake Sanders, how are you this Friday? How you coming in, man? We going thumbs up, we going thumbs down, we going thumbs neutral?
I'm bringing it right in the mids. We're gonna meet right here. I'm gonna do the old my thumbs or my eyes. That's freaking me out, man. And I did that free. I didn't need AI to do that.
That's right. Hey, man, have you seen the new season of Black Mirror?
No, because we're living in it.
It's true. Oh, man, it's
all those
so
shows,
good.
they were like, you better be careful. And we're like, no, we're going to go ahead.
We're going to just go ahead and plow right in.
We're just going to
just see how it all goes down.
I've actually lost my taste for dystopian science fiction. And I've also kind of gone off on satire. It's just like things are, demonstrably bad. So then thinking that we might need science or fiction to like really get us thinking is like, nah, I think you're off. And then what if we thought satirically about this? I also think you're off.
Really? So you don't like the winking and the nodding at pop culture and technology? What is in your media diet right now, Jake Sanders?
Well, I'm reading James Bridle, Ways of Being. It's a book that's like basically talking about all the different types of intelligences that are around us and how we're anthropomorphizing too much. When we're looking for intelligence, we need it to be our version of intelligence and not understanding new different types of intelligences. So it's really amazing. I mean, he's going off on how trees are communicating, how different animals, like when we see, are they smart? They might be communicating in ways that we don't know because we're humans and we're not able to figure it out. He had a really interesting thing in a recent passage where there was a moment where Facebook pointed two AI chatbots at each other. And they gave them some parameters, like I'll give you a ball and a couple things to barter, and you just go and have a conversation. And the chatbots got into this weird language, a secret language that they were using to transact with. And so it started out with, I have a ball, I'd like to trade this. And it was like, I'd like that ball, I'll give you this. And then after hours and hours, it was like ball, I. And then the response was you, me, ball, me, ball. And we shut it off because we're like, it's insane. They're using a made up language like, we don't even know what's happening. And this guy was like, I wish they would have let it go. I wish we would have been able to like hear more of this weird conversation, this weird language. Like, where's it coming from? There could be mathematical representations. Every time it said I, it was an indication of a mathematical thing that it was transacting. We're not sure. But there's all these different types of ways we communicate and get intelligence across to one another and in relation to our environments. And he mentioned that it was this new machine language could be completely different, and we shouldn't be scared of it. We should try and understand more of it. And I was like, man, that's kind of messing my head up, because I'll say, shut off the robots. They're bad. And you're like, what are they showing you? Where did they get it from? How are they coming to this?
Dude, yeah. Well, and have you ever read that book by Jaynes? It's The Origin of Consciousness and the Bicameral Mind.
No, but I would love that.
Dude, you'd love it. The hypothesis of this book is basically looking for evidence that human consciousness, and now this is a quick departure, like humans have always been very arrogant about like, oh, we're the only ones that are conscious. Like there's a consciousness switch, like we're conscious, dolphins are not. We're conscious, monkeys are not.
Rocks
whatever.
are stupid. Yeah.
When we know like everything else, there's a vast spectrum. Well, so Jaynes' book kind of goes into this and says that the origin of consciousness in modern humans, as we understand it, largely came from the development of language. And the development of deities actually came from the breakdown of the bicameral mind. So what that means is that like we have two lobes of our brains. And that what they're saying is like early Homo sapiens, or Homo sapiens, not even early, it's just like 50,000 years ago, there was a hard line between them. The two lobes of the brains aren't talking to each other. They're just monitoring their own functions. Now you have a breakdown of the bicameral mind. So our brains talk to each other. So the way that this shows up is basically schizophrenia, where you have voices talking to you, where across that membrane that separates your two lobes of your brain, a voice is like, light that on fire, run off the cliff, or whatever the intrusive voices are telling you, that's like left over from our mind that hadn't been fully developed by language. So as language got more sophisticated, we got more consistently conscious, and it spread, So what's interesting about that experiment is like, why unplug it? Because ultimately the key perhaps to unlocking artificial general intelligence and creating some kind of evolved mind is going to be them talking to each other if it follows the same evolutionary pattern that we did.
Right. And so, I mean, have you read Gilchrist, The Master and the Emissary?
No.
Well, you read that book, I'll read your book, and then we'll meet back. But he relates schizophrenia to so cross-hemispheric connections is how the brain works. There's this idea that there's these two separate things. They have, and I'm not 100% sure on the like proto-history of neurological development and the cerebral whatever, but I do know that it's much more cross-hemispheric than we let on, but there are very important things. So if you're more on this machine side of your brain, and then more on this holistic side. So one part of your brain, and I think it's the left, I don't know if I'm looking at you and it's different, but one of these hemispheres mechanistically breaks down things. It wants to see the parts. It has to see the parts. It cannot do holism. And so the right, or the other hemisphere is able to blend things. And so when people are schizophrenic, the cross-hemispheric connections that usually will provide a holistic interpretation for what's happening are not there. And so this is famous for certain people who get off on mechanistic thinking, and then their brain starts to change. Their chemistry starts to change.
What's an example of mechanistic thinking? What's that?
So mechanistic is parts. Everything is broke down and reducible to the parts that are happening. So I need to understand the particulate things that are happening inside. And the other part of your brain is being able to see the gestalt, the whole picture at once. And so you need to have a blend of both of those things. But schizophrenia is where one of the hemispheres, the mechanistic one, takes precedence, and everything is broken down. Everything is a piece and everything is machine and everything is robotic. And so it's famous because is it Heidegger? I forget who it is, but is it Descartes? Anyway, the point is, one of these famous philosophers.
I believe it was Kierkegaard.
I believe it was, but one of these famous philosophers that's the homie of all of everybody thought that people were robots. He couldn't see them as people. He was like, I don't trust people. You see a person, I see a robot. I don't trust these things. And so it's a very interesting thing. The main point of Gilchrist thing is our brains are creating the environments that we're living in. So you really wanted things straight, and now you have straight buildings. And there's something about straight lines that messes with our heads because there's no straight lines in nature. There is not a straight line. But in all of our mechanistically applied things like maps and stuff, we put straight lines everywhere. And then they actually have a negative impact on our psyche. Like you see straight lines, so you don't think curved. You don't think in different dimensions. So his point was that we're creating a world that fits to the mechanistic side of our brain, and we're forgetting how to create holistic narratives that connect other things. And I mean, if we really wanted to do something, I have a custom GPT that I created that takes a binary argument and breaks it into the main arguments and then synthesizes a new thought. It's called From Sides to Synthesis. And so you could put any weird topic in there and it would give you some thoughts. Do you want to try it?
I would. Did you vibe code this?
Brother, you know I did. But no,
What tool?
and I should have vibe coded it harder because now I'm starting to realize what I did is I basically took the Alaska Humanities depolarization guide. It's a step-by-step process that they give for people to de-escalate conflicts and find different, places. So I put that in the training data and I said, your job is to synthesize a third thought, a new way to break out of the binary. And then also give me an example of how both of these things are actually wrong. And so every time you give it a prompt, it's saying, here's the main argument, here's the other one, here's something you may not have thought about, here's what I think if none of these things were true. But I'm working in ChatGPT, you don't know what it's hallucinating from, you're not sure where it's coming from. And, so I'm starting to want to create a website for this. But then I was like, how do you keep it safe? How do you do these things? And you're like, well, this is what OpenAI and Character AI did. They were like, fuck safety. I'm not going to be able to do it. Make it real sycophantic in the beginning. Make it kiss their ass. And then we'll pull it back like in a couple years and be like, guys, I'm
Dude,
so sorry.
I got a name for the tool. All right, you ready for this? I'm
What?
product guy, so I got a name. The name of it is the most annoying dinner guest ever.
Oh, I just got a knife in my back. Oh, that's from Ryan.
Yeah, we're like, oh, hey, here's what I was thinking. It's like, oh, well, that's cute, but here's how we can destroy your perception of that.
Here, give me a contentious topic. Just do it.
Okay, contentious topic. Let's keep it on target. Will be human beings are the only sentient animals in the universe.
Animals on Earth.
Sentient might be the wrong word. Consciousness, let's go in between them because consciousness, both of these words get obfuscated and used in different contexts. There's a very specific psychological consciousness that is attributed with humans that they talk about.
So human beings are the only sentient conscious animals on Earth?
In the universe.
In the universe? Damn, son.
Yeah, expand, bro. We got to include the aliens. We don't know about those yet. We haven't got the hard evidence yet.
Here, can I share? Should I share my screen or it doesn't matter?
Yeah, do it for sure.
All right. Okay. Allow. I'm going to share this window. Here we go. Human beings are the only sentient conscious animals in the universe. Well, it's searching its knowledge. You know it is. So
nice. Here
we go. And this thing has been unlocking some of the coolest ideas for me. I kind of ramble into it and then it gets me thinking and then I take it and then I, massage it, put it somewhere else, bring it back, and so I'm playing around with this. But here we go. Argument A, human exceptionalism. Humans are the only, okay, supporting point, self-reflective consciousness. So says this AI. Philosophical roots, Cartesian dualism. That's my favorite dualism, Ryan.
It's the best kind.
Oh, Descartes famously thought animals were automata. That's what I just said that. Descartes he had this problem where he only saw robots. And you're like,
that's great recall, bro. That's great recall, bro. I love it.
Well, hey, until now I was just making it up. A continuum of sentience is argument B. Many animals are sentient and extraterrestrial consciousness is plausible. Oh, man. Supporting point. Okay, octopuses. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
The Cambridge
this is great.
Declaration of Consciousness. Okay, and then here's the synthesis. Sentience as a spectrum, not a binary. Instead of thinking about sentience as something you either have or don't, we can understand it as a spectrum. Bacteria, worms, dogs, chimpanzees, humans. Each level may involve different layers of subjective experience. New insight. What if consciousness is emergent, not exceptional? A property that arises in different ways in different systems. And that will get you thinking in a reframe. What if our obsession with being the only conscious species is more about loneliness or control than evidence?
Dude, what a cool tool, man. I really like this.
It's fantastic. It really is. And you can be harsh with it. But since it's mainly based off of the depolarization, its main job is to get you to think differently about other sides, differently about how you're thinking. I just don't think there's enough of that going on because AI is basically intent. Like if you have the intent, you can drive to the top of the mountain. What if you don't want to be on a mountain? What if you get to the middle of the mountain and you're like, I prefer the beach? You won't know. And the AI isn't going to be like, bro, let's turn around. Let's go to the beach. It's going to say, you gave me the objective. Let's drive towards it with blind ambition, regardless of everything. And I am going to be sycophantic in the way I tell you, you're real good. This is really amazing. What's going on? I mean, everybody, last 2 weeks, LinkedIn was full of comments being like, is ChatGPT like too much? You know, and as a jazz musician, what I knew is if anybody says you're a genius, you have to know that they are a narc. That's it. That's this jazz musician's truth. If anyone comes to me and says you're so smart, I'm like, I pat them down for wires instantly. Oh, really? Oh, you like jazz, do you? Let me see.
I like that.
Let me see that.
Dude, I think actually what it said is like sneaky profound because this is also what I'm excited about consciousness with AI, just to hang on this point for a minute. If consciousness is emergent, I think most people kind of understand that to be true, which is to say that like consciousness is really something you kind of tune into.
Yeah.
And people are tuned in a different capacity, and you meet really conscious people, and then you meet some automatic robots, and you can tell like they're not having a subjective experience of living.
Correct.
So now what this implies though is that there's physics behind consciousness, that there is innate consciousness that exists, and there's the ability to access it. So, you know, some people have called in the way that you can call like an atom has electrons, protons, neutrons. These are building blocks of matter. That consciousness has a building block. It has physics to it that might be in some kind of like multi-dimensional thing, you know, in the same way that gravity is a multi-dimensional thing. So consciousness.
Going off of what you're saying is it might not actually be a thing. It's an expression of an emergent property that we just don't understand.
That we don't understand because we can't measure it. I mean, you can experience it. So like, you're like, oh, it's what they call the hard problem of consciousness, where you're like, dude, I know that I'm having an interior subjective experience, but I can't prove that you are, you know, I can't prove that I am. But I just assume you are.
And that's where Descartes got all the way off the horse, because he was like, I can't prove that you're not a robot.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, cool. And so that's the Cartesian dualism. That's the main thing running computer science. That's the main thing running science. That's the main thing running that things can be reduced. When I really think what you're saying is that this emergent thing, it isn't a thing. Like intelligence and consciousness is not a thing you arrive at. It's a relational dynamic that's exposed through emerging properties and relational understanding. Like if I'm like, it's called getting your head out of your ass, I think is what we really call it. But most people are like, it's so warm and nice in here. There's no way I'm pulling my head out of my ass, because it's the death of their ego. If you really want to massage your binary thinking, just try and say, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't have this. Maybe there isn't a lot of that going around. So if I could suggest anything on the menu, it's intellectual humility, and say, man, I might not have all this. It's a wonderful place, and you can only go up from there.
And that does like enhance your consciousness, like humility and understanding that you don't know everything is like, that is a consciousness expanding thing. And what's interesting about if consciousness is emergent, then how are you getting the consciousness? For example, what's the stuff that Jedis have? Remember in like the later
midichlorian,
like midichlorian. Yeah, exactly. So like consciousness has a midichlorian that like when you access it, then you're like, are you getting more of this thing that exists in the world? And so this is what I think that AI might be able to do, is like, you know, quantum computing times AI, be able to figure out the hyperdimensional aspect of consciousness. Some people call it qualia, which I think is amazing. Hey, founders, let me ask you this. Are you building with AI or getting left behind by it? If you're serious about scaling smarter, faster, and bolder, you need to check out aiforfounders.co. It's your go-to resource for cutting through the noise and actually using AI to grow your startup. Each week, AI for Founders drops a sharp, no-fluff newsletter, dives deep with expert guests on the podcast, and hosts monthly workshops where you can get your hands dirty with the real tools and strategies. Whether you're pre-seed or Series B and beyond, launching something new or just staying sharp, AI for Founders gives you the edge you need to win in 2025 and beyond. Hit aiforfounders.co to subscribe to the newsletter, tune into the podcast, and grab your spot in the next workshop. And it's all free. Build smarter, move faster, think bolder with AI for Founders. Now back to the show.
I love qualia, which is my red isn't your red, isn't your thing. It's a subjective thing. But I would say you are circling the wrong drain, because that subjectivity is consciousness. That subjectivity is the universe. Like, we are doing it. If we're looking for something and we're in the middle of doing it, you're never going to find it. Like you're right now, you're relating with the universe, you're doing these things, and be like, I need proof that consciousness is happening. And it's like, how are you going to do that minus your consciousness?
Right.
And you're going to get there, and then how will you know? What you just said is AI is going to get us to hyperscale dimensional problems. How will we know those are right? We won't, because it's gone beyond our time scales, our brains, our math. I mean, and you don't even have to look at AI to get your mind blown. Just think very, very tightly about what the world feels like to an ant, to a mite, to a dog, to a child, to a giant, to the universe. And so, like, those scales of 10, like, you just run through those back and forth once, and you'll be like, man, we have a lot that's going on, and all we have right now is a firm handshake and a loving conversation with someone you know that cares about you. And so as you interact with AI, I was just thinking, you feel those midichlorians fill up. Like, when I read a book, when I have a great conversation with somebody, I feel my midichlorians fill up. But when I'm lost in those prompts, bro, like, there's nothing there. I'm not feeling it. I am aware of it, but it's a sort of haphazard thing. I just don't feel like the consciousness midichlorians are filling me up as I spend a lot of time in automated places.
Interesting. You know, what you're talking about too is like, how can you look at consciousness utilizing consciousness? Dude, that is like that is a Zen koan, you know, right. Like literally they'll say you can't you can't touch the tip of your finger with the tip of your finger. You know, or what's that or a sound of one hand clapping. So the experience of of consciousness in itself, like, there's these tools. I love the Zen the most too, because the aesthetic is so chill. The koans are the best.
All you need to do is read them, and then you've done the work. Because just in reading them, you're like, oh. And I remember, this is like 2 years ago I got this point. Because I had been following Buddhism, reading all these koans, I was like, oh my God, this is so confusing. Why are they being confusing? They just want to confuse you. They're weird. It's just pointless. And then you're like, no. In reading it, just the act of reading it and being with it, you experience what it is. Because what it's supposed to be doing is what it does. And you're like, am I happy? I don't know. Does it throw a celebration for me? Like, no, like, it's just to get your brain to go. And that's what I'm trying to do with that synthesis thing, is just a couple things. Like, if I could phrase it as a koan, maybe that'd be helpful. But those are great exercises because they get you to break into the cognitive dissonance that could break you out of cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. And also, you know, to your point of like Descartes, like, look at the world as a mechanistic function, which actually was really productive for him. He did some awesome stuff. I mean,
he cranked
the Cartesian XY coordinate axis.
He cooked.
It's great.
Dude cooked.
He cooked. That dude had a heck of a career. But then it hinders you in other ways, right?
Right.
And we don't know him personally, how he was. He could have been insufferable. I mean, a brilliant genius and seeing things as a machine has certain function,
Right.
but that's not everything, right? The
Mhm.
other side is like a Zen koan where you're like, no, this like analytical A to B type thinking is only going to put you in one direction. There is this other way to be as well, that has its own unique property. And of course, Zen is not going to say it's better or worse than anything else, but it's just also emergent. It's just also there, you know?
Emergent. I think a lot of us don't want to think of ourselves as emergent properties. We're like, I'm here. I've been here. Y'all know me. It's one of my favorite sayings is
Oh, man.
what I heard it on a bus once in New York. And you know me. This is what this lady was saying to another lady. Said, so he did this, and you know me. And the girl's like,
You're like,
yes, I do.
oh, yeah.
And then, you know me. And then everyone's like, you know me. And everybody wants to be the you know me person. So you know me. You'd be like, what's up, fam? Subscribe and like, you know me. And then ultimately you learn something that you can't be known for, and you might have to like pivot a little bit. You won't do it because intellectual flip-flopping, changing your mind, weakness. And science is like, we should probably change our mind. And we're like, burn down the lab. Let me tell you something. You just got to stay with it. And if you stay with it, your theory becomes reality. And are we reading The Secret instead of a scientific literature, driven empirical? Oh, so I think there's a bit of that.
Well, I mean, that's human nature. People hate uncertainty and they hate change. It's hard to say like, wow, the universe is full of this impossible to decipher complexity. They just want to be like, no, dude, Jesus loves you. You're going to heaven. Everything's fine. Like,
Oh,
stop.
Oh my God. Could you
I don't
imagine?
blame them, right?
Because the other thing is you have a buffet of contradictory thoughts inside your smart brain, and it doesn't make you happy, does it? You're like, well, I do believe Descartes said this, and also Christian and Hindu mysticism. And then also I think, but some of the latest, aerospace engineering. And you're like, you know what? It's so much easier if you're just like, people are bad, And then you're like, who? It doesn't matter. And you're like, perfect. Oh my God, no nuance. People are so excited to not think. And I just want people to always remember that if anyone can jump at an opportunity to not use their brain, they're going to do it. And that's including me. I mean, I might be getting off the bus real early with my thoughts here. Be like, oh, I know things. I've read books. Brother, I might be wrong. But I'm the only person out here saying I might be wrong. Like, come join me. Get in the pool.
Dude, I can't. I'm trying to think of like, what was the expression? But you know me.
Oh, and you know me.
What? And you know me. What's the classic white guy expression equivalent? What would it?
Yes, because this was a
suburban
sister.
white guy.
This was a sister on a bus.
Of course.
And I was like, oh, and now I know her.
White guy would be like, I'm circle back on that.
But they're known for circling back. It's just like, we don't even have to say anything.
Yeah,
It's just like,
that wouldn't be right. Exactly.
like we you already know us, other people have to declaim the fact that you know me. Other people are like, oh, bro, we know your book. But I would say, yeah, I've done enough interviews with enough people. I would say there's interstitial things. Like I think, and the truth for me is, or here's what it comes down to, those kind of like those landing things, those might be ours. Like, here's what I think, like it isn't me. It's get ready to hear, the next thing you're about to agree with. But yeah, so, oh my God, this is fantastic. We need to do more of this. I'll give you this ChatGPT. Will you play around with it?
100%. Yeah. How can people find it, dude? If they search the GPTs in OpenAI, can they find it?
It should be, but let me just make sure I put an official link in the chat, and then we can, if we can find that. Yeah, but if you look up from sides to synthesis, You should be able to find it. But I'm going to work on this. I want to create a private, thing for me, a website, and all I want is for people to come into it and break up their binary thinking. Find the third alternative. Think of the third thing. That's what you need. And so everyone's like, I'm going to use my third eye. Oh, but what if it's closed and it has glaucoma and somebody farted on your pillow and it's crusted shut? Don't depend on that thing to open. We might have to.
I love you, man. I got to bounce. We'll do it again in a month.
Cheers.
So let's talk about podcasts for a second. You're listening to one, which is awesome, by the way. Thank you so much. But have you ever thought about being a guest on a podcast? Like, seriously, imagine sharing your story and your expertise and your business all on shows where your ideal customers are already listening. Kitcaster connects founders and entrepreneurs, professionals, with podcasts that actually make sense for their brand. No pitching, no guessing. You just have great conversations on great shows. And the best part, Kitcaster handles everything. You just show up and bring your A game, Kitcaster does the rest. This is hands down one of the easiest ways to grow your personal brand and just create a wellspring of content for short video, for blog posts, for speaking engagements, for whatever. So if you've been thinking, yeah, I really need to step up my content game, go to kitcaster.com and apply today. Now back to the show.